Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Can I Have a Word, the podcast that explores language and its impact on our identity and the people we become. I'm your host, Carl James, and I'm really excited for our conversation today. Today's conversation is going to dive into what it means to inhabit a space that you've earned, but something inside you tells you otherwise. We're going to talk about creativity, credibility, and the quiet and sometimes persistent tug of war that can make even the most successful moments feel uncertain or sometimes unearned. And if that sounds nebulous and kind of weird, it will all become clear momentarily. I'm excited to be joined by a very good friend of mine, Adam Lucas, who I've known for many years. He is a screenwriter who specializes in adaptation with a preference for socially relevant themes. His work is all about taking existing stories and reimagining them, stepping into someone else's voice, someone else's world, and making it his own. There are so many things that I could say about him. He's easily one of the smartest people that I know, and he's blushing already. I can't even call him a movie buff. I would say that he's a cinephile because he watches a lot of movies, which we'll talk more about as well. And quite frankly, he's just an all-around great guy, and I've been itching to get him on the podcast, and so I'm glad that he's able to join me today. So without further ado, Adam Lucas, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind and generous introduction.
All true.
I'll do my best to live up to
No
that.
pressure. No
pressure at all. No
all
worries.
true.
I'll use big words.
You always use big words, actually. That's kind of
But they
your
mean
thing.
the wrong thing, so someone can put the right words in.
So like I said, I've known Adam for many years. I actually went to grad school with his lovely wife, Allison. Mm-hmm. And fun fact, I was their officiant at their wedding.
That's right.
So anyone out there, if you're looking for someone to marry you, I'm available.
It was absolutely beautiful.
I was
struggled not to cry the entire time. It was heartfelt. It was genuine. It was amazing.
It was a great time.
We made our day perfect.
I was honored to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. So lots of things to discuss today, but whenever we bring a guest on, we like to learn a little bit more about them. So first, if you could please tell me the story of your name. That could mean who named you, do you have a nickname, anything you want to share relevant to your name.
Sure. Actually, funny enough, until a few months ago, so my full name is Adam Michael Lucas, and I thought it was just biblical. My parents were Catholic. My entire family was Catholic. I didn't know anything about it. And so I just sort of living this entire time. And I think we talked about it at one point. I was like, oh, they're just biblical names. My father was visiting, and we were talking some ancestry, given that I have a son now. And I think my mother-in-law asked, what does your name mean? And I was like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just biblical. And he sort of chimed in and was like, no, you were named after people, which I had no idea. Literally months ago. Yeah. So my first name, I was named after my paternal grandfather had a brother who died in infancy. And so I took his name, Adam. And my middle name was my maternal would be my great-grandfather, my mother's grandfather, who she lived, and I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah, I really had no idea until 3 months ago, which was interesting because it's like a different, I don't know if I had known when I was younger if it would have mattered much. I don't think you think as much about the weight of your own history, right? Everything is sort of more ego formation, and you're thinking about yourself, and those are my names and whatever. But I think now having a son,
that changes and puts things in perspective. And
certainly. Yeah, you think about the weight of the history that you carry and what those names mean and who those people were.
Where you came from.
100%. It's something I didn't care about at all, really, sadly, I think, until he was born. And then we started talking about where my family came from, where they immigrated from. I wish
Where are they from?
Russia and Slovakia primarily.
Wow.
Yeah, my ancestry is like just a yellow circle. There's like nothing. They were like, you're from here. This is where you live. But I don't know anything about it. We've only started to dig recently. I think wanting to pass that information down to my son. I'm sure he won't care until he's older as well. As these things
I
tend
know.
to go,
It'll be like 25, 30 years before he cares.
100%.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got time. Figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. No, I need a deadline. Don't not give me a deadline. As a writer, you tell me it needs to be done next week. Yeah.
Bring that forward.
Yeah, nothing nebulous, please.
All right, so let's get into it.
Sure.
Adam, can I have a word, please?
You can have a word. The word is imposter.
All right, so what do people think about when they think about the word imposter? So there are a couple of different definitions. So the very sort of I'll say pedantic kind of definition that we might think of, a person who pretends to be someone else in order to deceive others for fraudulent gain. Now, that's a bit aggressive for how we're planning to use it today, I think. I think the way we'll probably contextualize imposter is kind of the way we think about the term imposter syndrome. So that kind of refers to this kind of persistent inability to believe that your success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of your own efforts. So with that in mind, how do you kind of frame imposter? Like when you share that word, what does it mean to you?
Sure. I think you did a pretty good job framing it. I think the notion of presenting as something or someone that you are not, and in this case, speaking specifically professionally, I think as someone working in the arts, where it can be perhaps hard to define success, and if you define yourself by your success, it can be hard to define yourself. So I think that's where it comes from. I think you spend a lot of time trying to earn your place in the room, even when you're in the room, never feeling like you perhaps belong in the room. It's a super saturated industry. Everything is competitive. Everyone is only as good as what they did a moment ago. Right? The half-life for success is very low in the industry. So I think that's all sort of wrapped up in maybe what the word means to me is someone who has spent a very long time working, quote unquote, in the industry, who maybe didn't feel like he belonged there until relatively recently, if at all, still.
So it's still feeling some of that.
I think so. I think much like the successes, you have these moments where you feel like you've achieved a particular success, or you have earned the right to label yourself in one particular way, and then maybe you hit a dry spell. Maybe you don't get a paycheck for a little while and you start to really question that. Again, those aren't the ways that we should measure, I think, the success we have, especially when you're working in the arts. But they're the way that society tends to measure those successes. I think that's something that we latch on to whether we want to or not.
So that's something I actually want to revisit a little bit later because I have a specific question related to that.
Yeah,
please. A little theory that I came up with and I want to see if it works. So kind of diving in a little bit more to this idea of being an imposter, is there a difference between feeling unqualified and feeling like an imposter? Like, is it just that you may or may not have certain skills, or like you're almost wearing a mask and hoping no one catches it?
Wow, that's a really interesting delineation, because I think sometimes you are fighting for jobs that you arguably understand that you're not qualified for, and you hope that you're going to figure them out when you are in the job.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a really great maybe delineation to make, to start to unpack what that means and maybe remove some of the pejorative aspect of the word.
Because I think, because sometimes it's like imposter can sound so harsh. Like, because I think we all have been in situations where you're like, this role is a bit of a stretch for me, but I could do it. There are things I have to learn. Maybe there's some software or, a couple of things I have to do behind the scenes to sort of, get caught up, but like you can do it.
Right.
Then there's the whole thing of like, I do not belong here. I don't know how they let me in this room. Like, God help me if anyone discovers that I am completely winging this. Right. Like, that's a very different thing. And then sometimes you live somewhere in the middle. So I guess it's really just a question of, and it may be situation specific, like where you put yourself kind of on that very broad spectrum.
No, absolutely. And I don't mean to only talk about the arts. I know everybody in every industry experiences this at some point, right? Where you, especially as you're trying to move up the ladder, become promoted, or get a better position, you have to put yourself into situations where you are inherently unqualified until you do the job. You can't be qualified for the job sometimes until you step into it and do it for a little while. But to speak to my experience specifically in the arts, I think, again, maybe it's just that there is no clear definition of what qualifies you for any particular piece of work. I mean, you come out, what do you get when you go to, I have an MFA, I went to film school. When you come out of film school, you still don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Because it's largely been like academic, and you kind of been in a sort of bubble, sort of learning the craft. And then there's going out into the world and like having to navigate doing the craft with no protection. Like you're kind of like in the industry now, and
that's right,
dealing with a lot of colorful personalities. That's being real generous, because some of them are jerks. But like it's different. So yeah, like I think some of it you won't get until you're just kind of out there doing it.
And I think that's it. And maybe that's a way to be kind to yourself about that, right? Because you come out of maybe you, with that degree, you sort of leave, even when I work with students and have tutored students occasionally, at best you're trying to give them a toolbox, right? No project is the same. No movie is the same. No production is the same. No script is the same. Like you said, no personality that you're going to work with is the exact same. So you can't tell someone, these are the tools specifically like software or like, this is how you read a spreadsheet. At best, you hand them a box of tools and say, I think there are all of the tools in here that you need to work on this particular project. You're going to have to figure out which tool specifically fits. But I think of like, imagine if you showed up as a plumber and you were like, I've never seen these pipes before, but I have some wrenches. We're going to figure it out. And that's sort of what it feels like a little bit every time, right? Yeah, 100%. Hope you have homeowners insurance.
Right.
But that's really sort of what it's like. And I think maybe what you gain by experience is just the confidence to say, yeah, I can trust that I will find the right tools for this particular project, right? And a lot of times when you're pitching a project or when you're pitching to be part of a project, a lot of what you're saying is just, I have enough experience that when I get there, I'm going to be able to do the job, as opposed to saying I know how to do this specific job. Not all the time.
Do you remember the first time you had that feeling of feeling like an imposter? Was it a particular job? Or was it even, or did it even predate, sort of your career sort of situations?
So that would be interesting to think about. I don't think I've ever looked at it as far back as when I first, because when you start, you have just a naive sense of confidence that you need to get into the business, right?
Oh, the confidence of youth.
Oh my God, right? And just, I can't wait for my son to grow up and tell me all the things I don't know, in the same way that I told my parents. I can remember lecturing.
We all did it. We all thought we knew so much.
Oh my God. I can remember a specific moment where my father was watching like Clint Eastwood Westerns. And this was before I sort of knew what the spaghetti Western was, right? But I had like just discovered Unforgiven. And I tried to tell my father why those weren't Westerns. This was a Western. And he just sat there and listened very kindly. The naive confidence of youth again. So I think at that time I was like, of course you belong. You say the thing and you do the thing and you belong. And then somewhere along the way, getting the degree, I feel like I left school going, oh my, like somewhere along that path, I realized how little I actually knew, which is a good thing.
Right.
I remember, I took martial arts for a while, and one of the things
really?
that
I had no idea you were a martial artist.
I am an imposter when I would call myself a martial artist.
Again.
That's right. I don't necessarily feel like, it's been such a long time that I feel like a little bit disconnected from that, but I did do it for years and years and years.
Interesting.
And they always talked about, in karate specifically, working your way toward a black belt. A black belt is like a starting place, right? You learn all of the tools you need to begin learning. That's what a black belt is. It doesn't mean you know everything. It means now you have the tools to begin learning. That's exactly
go on the journey.
And I always thought that was lovely. And I embraced it there. And then I got out of film school with the same sort of idea and thought, oh, this is terrifying, right? Because now I'm supposed to walk into a room in an industry that's super saturated with people who are all competing for the same thing that I'm competing for. I have no leverage. I have no experience, no CV, but I have to tell them I can do the job. And somewhere along, right in that spot, right, like the confidence just dissolves. And you start thinking the only way for me to do this is to lie about it. And I think maybe that's sort of where at least it came from for me. And so it was around, with a degree in hand that I will pay off until I'm dead twice over.
Loans.
Right. With years of experience, I had worked on film sets, I had written scripts, they weren't any good, but I wrote them and they had an ending.
You were doing it.
I was doing it, essentially. Yeah. That's when I started to feel like, oh, I don't think I can call myself a writer. What am I supposed to say I am? A filmmaker? All of this sounds nebulous. I haven't earned it. What did I do to earn it? I'm competing with people who have a thick CV.
More established resume. So,
and I think that's maybe where it really started to solidify or started to feel disingenuous when I would refer to myself as a filmmaker or a writer.
I think we talked about this, but Natasha Rothwell, who many will know from, a number of things, Insecure, White Lotus, etc. But she was talking about when she wrote for SNL for a period of time, and the first time that she went down on set to see her name in the credits, and she felt like that was the first time she could call herself a writer. But then she thought about it more and she realized she had been writing for years before she saw that credit. So why wouldn't you call yourself a writer even before that? And so there is this idea that like somehow you have to wait for some career marker or someone from on high to bestow you with the credential of writer or actor or whatever the thing is that you're doing before you can call yourself that thing. And it's like, no, when you start doing it, you're it. That's how I would like to see it. Now, granted, we don't always feel that, but like I feel like we should start owning that for ourselves a little bit more and stop waiting for like the gatekeepers to like give us permission to call ourselves those things.
I think so 100%, especially in an industry where there is nothing but gatekeepers. It's gatekeepers all the way up, you know, it's not turtles all the way down. It's gatekeepers all the way up. I've never seen the end of the gatekeeping. I don't know where it ends.
No, it's always there.
For sure.
Somewhere.
So I think you're right. And I think it's totally okay to say, to be kind to yourself, right? And say, I am this because I am doing this, but I can also understand and compartmentalize that and say, but there are things I've yet to achieve that I would like to achieve. Both of those things can coexist.
Absolutely.
We just tend to not be kind to ourselves in that way. You know, especially because what's the joke is like the artist Venn diagram is like one circle of narcissism and the other circle of self-loathing, and like you're right in the middle.
Oh yeah,
you know, exactly
all the time,
100%. So that self-loathing just continues to creep
Push.
in, and especially in that case. Okay, so you're a writer on SNL and you have this credit, and then what happens if you go a year, you go 2 years without picking up another gig? It's like that again it starts to erode. That confidence to say that this is what I am starts to erode.
So that's a great segue. So I'm gonna like dive into my theory here. So I call what you just described, and I'm not sure if this is accurate, but I like it, so I'm gonna go with it. I call it latent or reverse imposter syndrome.
Ooh.
So it's this idea that your value is tied to what you do professionally, and so when you're successful, your perceived value is at a premium, like, and it feels deserved and it feels real and it feels earned. But if you experience job loss or separation, or you go for a period of time where you are not working, in the case of a creative person, then that can cause your value to temporarily go down or feel like it's diminished. And if it lasts for an extended period of time, it can almost feel like the value that you thought you had never really existed to begin with.
Absolutely.
Because now you've sort of been found out. And so as someone, who's been through job separation and went for a nice little stretch, not having work.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real sort of, mind game of, did I have anything to offer at all? Did I make up the value that I thought that I had? Because if I had it, why don't I have it now? I didn't lose anything. I'm still me. Absolutely. I still have the skills that I have. Why is it not being appreciated?
You've earned your accomplishment.
Right.
It exists. No one can take that away from you.
Except it feels like something has been taken. And so then it's a question of, what did I have to begin with? So I like my theory. I think I'm going to go with it. But that's a real thing that I think a lot of people feel.
I was going to say, again, speaking of like not wanting to confine this to the arts specifically, I think with job loss, right, in a shaky economy, a lot of people experience this for sure. In relationships, right? You've been out of a relationship for a little while, that confidence starts to erode. So I think this is a universal feeling, that we're just applying to,
So we're kind of like segueing from like professional, but wait, you were going to say something?
I like what you said about, you put in the phrase found out, right?
Yeah.
Which again, like it removes this internal mechanism that we have to say, I've accomplished something, I do something, no one else can define that. And it just inherently gives it to somebody else. And I don't know if you meant to say that or meant to include that, or it just sort of made its way in there. But I think part of the problem is that we keep giving that ability to define us, especially in the arts, right? Because we need an audience. We need a viewer.
About approval.
That's exactly it. You can't do it. It's not something that you can go into a shop and do and you leave and it's done. It has to be viewed to exist. Art without the viewer has no value.
Yeah. Because it's not even just that you did it. It's like, you did it, and is it good? Is it good enough? Is it good enough to sell? Is it good enough for people to come see it?
For sure.
Like
on and on and on. That list is
always moving. The line is always moving in terms of like
that's right.
the value that it has.
100%.
And so I feel like that constantly just reinforces the like, Am I good? Am I good? Am I really good? Am I really, really good?
That's it.
Because we always need more approval to keep going further.
For sure. And as you said, we keep redrawing the line, or we keep creating new definitions, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of segueing now from like, the kind of professional realm, like how does this idea of feeling like an imposter or having imposter-like syndrome, how does that touch you in a personal way or in your personal life? Where does it show up?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't think about, here we are talking about something that I did years and years ago, right, with like studying martial arts. And I'm like, oh, my first reaction is to say, but that's not what I am, because I did it so long ago that I haven't checked in with it for a while. I earned those belts.
You still got them
did
belts.
those years.
You better claim those belts, man.
That's right. I'm sure they're somewhere, very sweaty, very sticky.
They're like, you're not touching them, but they're there.
Right. That's right. I'm sure my parents saved them somewhere and will eventually be like, please get this out of the house. I think in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways that it crept up that I did not expect is with Parenthood. And we have a son who is 4 years old. And when we had him, we read a lot of books.
Yeah, you do.
Our wedding was book themed, as you know.
I was there. Yep.
That's right. A lot of our whole entire house is books.
Between books and movies, you all have the gamut
Consume
of
a lot of media. Yeah. And people sent us books on what to expect.
Yes.
And we read none of them. I don't know what we were
you
thinking.
Like, we got it? Like, what did
I don't think so. I don't think it was arrogance. I think it was literally just it was like, yeah, we'll get to that part, right? I'll use the manual when I have the machine. Right now, I need to put the crib together and I need to get some things set up.
Practical
we need to
things
paper
have
the room.
to happen first.
That's right. And then eventually, when a gasket blows, I'll look it up on
where's that
YouTube.
book?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do I go to like Home Depot and like, what do I get to replace? But we never got around to them, and then we just ended up mired in the newborn phase, and he didn't sleep very well, and he had colic for a very long time, and we were exhausted.
All the things that new parents deal with.
Completely universal, right? Not specific at all. And yet, out of resources and out of fuel and out of gas and not having slept, I'm sitting at my kitchen table, and I think Allison had already gone back to work post maternity leave, and lovely friends of mine had sent the new dad established 2021, and best father, whatever. I was angry, to be honest. I wanted to, because I didn't feel that. I felt like there is a particular love for your child that you are supposed to have that I don't have. All I have is exhaustion and frustration. And
that masked anything.
That's it. The love was there. The love obviously
it's obviously there, but like
right?
when you're sleep deprived and all the things.
And have no resources. And again, universal experience. Intellectually, outside of the circumstance, I might have thought about that, but in the circumstance, I didn't have the resources to even intellectualize anything, right? You're trying to get from moment to moment. And I had this deep shame that I don't deserve this, title. I don't deserve to talk to other people about having a newborn. I don't deserve to say I feel one way or another about him, because all I have is this. I don't have this definitive emotional experience that I was supposed to have. And I didn't talk about it with other people.
Well, I was going to say, did you try to talk to it?
I certainly come from, where I come from. Like, I come from a very small town. It's very hardworking. And the mentality is bury your emotions, right? That's how you get by.
I mean, that's how a lot of young boys grow into men.
100%.
You don't have feelings.
100%. And I grew up around, my father is very abusive. He's very open with his feelings. He always told me he loved me. I could always go to him. My friend's father is very similar. My grandfathers were generally the same way. And yet that umbrella attitude that sort of permeates that culture still made its way in. And so I don't want to talk to anybody about this shame. I'm just going to swallow the shame, and hopefully one day it'll change, and it's not. It's getting worse. And
how do you fix it?
I got lucky, and I had a friend check in, and I think I was eventually you get so worn down, the thin is so skin that just the thing.
Oh, yeah, I've been there many a time.
100%, right? And it just all came out.
Yeah.
And, it was very normal because he has 2 children. And he was like, yeah, of course, this is all normal. And I was like, I should have brought this up earlier, too. I don't know why more people don't talk about this. And maybe
because
they do.
Because of the shame.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right?
No one wants to admit that they have those feelings. It sounds horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I felt for at least those early months until I was able to open up. But it was strange because I felt like, people would check in and be like, oh, how is everything? And you just mask and you say, it's great. And I'm having a great time and I love him more than anything. And it's okay. It's hard, but we're getting by. And what you really mean is like,
this sucks.
Somebody help me. I am not okay. Yeah.
Do you see me screaming on the inside?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's real. And I feel like, and I mean, I've heard this. I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but I've heard this from my friends who are parents that like people don't really talk about the not so glamorous parts of, what it means to.
I feel like you see more of it. I'm not on social media, so I don't know per se, but I feel like maybe you see more of it on social media now. Maybe there's more of a tendency for people to be open.
I feel like there is more speaking up about those types of things in general, or finding support groups and networks where you can share. Like, I know there are groups of like dads in like different parts of the country, like they go for runs together and like they do things to just sort of like decompress from, all of the things that you encounter when you're like raising kids. So like, I think those networks are happening and those conversations are happening, but yeah, it's slow and it takes a bit of like courage to even join them and say like, I feel this way.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Especially because nobody wants to be first. Nobody wants to be the first to admit that.
No,
right?
Being first is not fun.
Yeah.
I agree. So I have a question.
Yeah.
But I want to ask it in 2 different ways. So I'm going to ask it the first way, and I want you to just sort of like think about the answer. Don't say it.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask you again, different way.
Okay.
And then I want you to answer.
Okay.
And then I also then want you to tell me if your answer changed.
Okay.
Just trying a thing.
I love it.
So the question is, how have your identity markers, whether it be race, gender, sexuality, or class, shaped your experience with imposter feelings? Have your internal answer. Now I'm going to ask it another way. Do you ever feel a pressure to project more confidence as a straight white male? So now you can answer, and then I want to know if your answer was different.
Yeah, I think I do.
Say more.
Well, it's maybe an embarrassing thought, right? But I think...
Not here.
I'll be open.
Yeah.
Knowing the degree of privilege that I have had growing up. Even growing up in a working class community, I certainly didn't come from wealth. But my parents helped me get to college. I worked through college. I worked road construction. I cleaned hotel rooms. I worked retail to help pay for that. I worked to afford grad school. I worked in between undergrad and grad school to put away enough money that I could then even afford the loans.
Right.
I don't know that I could have done that, certainly not in the same way, without my parents' help. They worked really hard to get me out of that town, which there is a lot of starting friction for.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of opportunities there. But I have not, as a straight white man, had the same hurdles that other people who do not carry those characteristics have had to fight against. And so sometimes I do think I feel like that makes it difficult to complain a bit.
So okay, so this is why I love you, first of all, because I knew I could ask you the question and you would be honest about it. And I was curious because I've never actually, there is this idea that we have, I think, in society that like straight white men have a certain sort of confidence about moving through the world because of how society sort of affords the doors to always be open to them.
Absolutely.
In ways, as you've mentioned, that have not been open for, let's say, women, people of color, and other identity groups. Full stop. That said, I've always wondered if straight white men were fully conscious of that sort of perceived, not even perceived, real privilege. And therefore, how does it show up for them? And then when you're in moments of struggle, as you were talking about, do you feel like you're not allowed to acknowledge that and therefore put on a mask? And so I've always wanted to unpack that. And so I appreciate the honesty that you're bringing in your answer, because
happily.
I don't think I don't think everyone would be necessarily open to sharing that. So, yeah.
No, it's tough. I don't know. Look, generally speaking, moving through the world as a straight white man and not having those same hurdles affords me the privilege of not having to unpack a lot of what it means to be a straight white man sometimes, right? We don't have to, I don't think, not to say that we shouldn't, and not to say that introspection isn't warranted in a million ways. Sometimes we don't necessarily have to have it. When you don't bump into as many hurdles, you don't have to utilize as much introspection, right? To say, oh, what went wrong here? Did it have something to do with me? Did it have something to do with the system? Did it have something to do with whatever? We just don't have to unpack as much. We don't have to think about it as much. So it's another reason that I think maybe we don't, think about those things in those moments where we should. And
because for the rest of us, like, we, encounter things all the time. And so I'm always mindful of like how I show up in rooms and how I present. I talked about last season the word articulate and like why that's such a thing for me. But constantly being aware of like how you're being perceived on the other side of the table, I feel like I'm often underestimated. And so I'm used to almost having to overperform to show that I do belong. I'm quite capable. I'm smart enough, all the things.
Right.
And so for me, even the idea of imposter has always been like a funny term, because it's never something that it's never a term that I really use, but I am quite conscious of the fact that I often have to prove to people that I deserve to be where I am.
Of course.
And that I know what I'm doing while I'm here. And even if I don't exactly know what I'm doing, I am capable enough to figure it out if you give me the chance. Right. And so I just think that's a really kind of interesting concept because of different identity markers.
No, I'm sure, and I'm sure that makes that struggle all the more steeper.
Yeah.
Of course. Which is something that I will carry away from this conversation and have to unpack, well, in a great way,
Yeah, because I think, and this is, I love that you chose this word because it really made me sort of sit with it for a while. And I guess my next question to you would be, do you think imposter syndrome is more so a reflection of the environment that you're in as opposed to you as the individual? Because I often feel like you come to whatever you're doing, task, process, whatever, with what you know you can do, what you believe you can do, the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
And what you're really encountering from the other side is other people's judgments of you, other people's insecurities that they then project onto you. And so what you're really trying to work through is other people's insecurities to prove to them that they don't matter and that you can do the thing anyway. Does that make sense?
100%. So much. I feel like every pitch is 90% you trying to talk the person that you're pitching the project to out of their reservations.
Right. Exactly.
As opposed to, and 10% you trying to explain the quality of your product.
Like, this is good. I know this is going to work. Now I just have to calm you down enough to actually hear how great this is.
Right.
and that we can really make this thing work. 1,000%.
Yeah, and maybe that's personal. I mean, I've certainly known some people who can go into the room and literally are just salesmen, right? And they walk into a space and they are genuinely excited about their product, and that's what they talk about, and it comes across, and that is definitely not me, or maybe it's just me that leads with the product and be like, I've thought of the 100 reasons this could go wrong, so let me tell you why it's not going to happen.
But of course.
Yeah, but yes, that's exactly how you have to prepare, because again, at least in my experience, a lot of those pitches are people trying to, in a way, that's what I feel like they come to the project going, these are all of the reasons we should never make this. So now let's erase, it's your job to erase all of these things off the page.
That is part of the goal of what you're trying to do.
For sure, for sure. And I'm sure also, I mean, maybe for some people it builds confidence. It tends to erode confidence, to go back to that issue, because then all that happens is you're aware of all of your shortcomings. You're aware of all of the shortcomings of the project, right? And then you're trying to talk someone out of them, as opposed to there's something reactive about that pushes you into a corner, as opposed to maybe allowing it to be active and to push the project forward. Because maybe that's just me.
You have to navigate them both at the same time, because you also have to show the value of what you've done.
That's it.
And also mitigate their sense of risk about taking this on, or even supporting it in whatever way. So it's a sort of both and kind of a situation, as opposed to, I think, an either or.
I think so too.
So would you say that because of the sort of imposter feelings that you might feel, are you adept at code switching? Do you feel like you are able to sort of maneuver, or not so much?
I've gotten better about it. I mean, there are still certain situations, like any interview, right, where you just fumble it and you can't get it back in the space.
Sometimes once it's gone,
100%. And now it's all Zoom, so you just sit there awkwardly and you're like, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask me about this thing you're not going to make? I hate it. Yes, I think I've gotten better at that, because that's one of the tools that you have to put in the toolbox, right? You have to tell people it doesn't matter how you actually feel about something. You're going to fix whatever problems you have with it. You're going to fix whatever problems you have with it in the room, right? And I mean, that's not the way a producer thinks or a financier thinks. They want to fix it before they obviously invest.
Right.
From my perspective, when you go in as a writer, you go in as someone who's adapting a project, right, or doing a script, you're going to fix the issues in the room. That's what development is for. That's where we live primarily. So you have to put that tool in the toolbox, which also just feels disingenuous. So there's a part where, like, you get good at code switching and going into that room with a degree of confidence and saying, I know I can do this, but then you come away from it thinking, man, all I did was, I'm just a snake oil salesman in there. You know what I mean? And it stinks, because intellectually.
I'm a professional BS.
That's right. That's not what you're doing, but that's what it feels like you're doing.
It can feel like that. But I like to couch it in a different way, because I think we all have to adapt that skill to a certain degree. I mean, I don't necessarily adopt the sort of fake it till you make it, but sometimes
there is a reason that we say that.
There's a reason why we use it. Yeah, because that's kind of what you have to do.
But maybe that's a bad thing too. Maybe we should stop telling people to fake it, because maybe that's part of the problem. You're not faking it.
It's like, maybe you've got it.
The language means something. You have an entire podcast about what the language means. And here we are telling people to fake it until they make it, instead of saying, like, be confident until they realize.
You've got it until you also
doesn't
see
roll off the tongue
I know,
in the
it's
same
not
way.
as catchy,
we'll have to come up with some rhymes.
We'll figure it out.
ChatGPT will figure it out.
Already has.
I know.
So do you, like, in order to combat some of those feelings that you might have, are there, like, I mean, this is going to sound kind of weird, but are there rituals? Are there mantras? Are there things that you say to just sort of, like, I don't know, bring yourself back to, like, Adam's got this. Like, I know who I am, like, when I step into this room. Or do you just say, like, let's see what they're throwing at me?
That's more what I do now. I used to prepare. I used to have, I would specifically set aside a box of time where I would, like, exercise a little bit, burn off some of the energy, right? Settle myself down, have one coffee, not be too caffeinated, not be tired,
I mean,
all
that might
things.
just be a thing generally.
100%. And I think, maybe just because I've done it a lot more often now, it's just, no, let's not. If you create an expectation for how that meeting is going to go, or how that conversation is going to go, or how the project is going to go, how every day on set is going to go, what your pages are going to look like at the end of the day, I think you set yourself up for failure. I think you have to be more fluid and just say, some of this is going to be bumpy, like anything. That's fine. Been there before. We're going to get over the hill. Don't let that destroy your confidence. You might misspeak at some point. You might disconnect from the conversation at some point and you don't see eye to eye. That's okay. Soft reset. Just be genuine and go back in. So I think the trick is to I don't know, maybe be carrying less tools in as you go along, so you're not scrambling for the right thing to do. You just know what the right thing is.
I think you also just kind of accept that, like, kind of as you say, like, that's going to be part of the process, and you're not going to have it fully figured out. Right. And part of what you're always going to have to do is sort of talk people down from their anxiety about moving forward or supporting it or financing it, whatever the thing is. And I think that's just, you just have to get used to doing that.
I think when you start out, you have this impression that you're supposed to go into the room with every answer, and that's what makes you seem professional.
Yeah.
And I think
that if you don't have it, then you're somehow like
for sure
not ready.
You know what really helped? Two things helped. I had a really good. I worked for Florida State admissions in between undergrad and grad school when I was waiting to get in-state tuition.
Like, what is your life, sir? I did not know
100%
any of that.
It was great. I had actually a really good time. The office was great. I worked with really great people. It was one of the most fun jobs I've ever had, and I had a really great boss when I started out who said, you're going to get a lot of phone calls from a lot of parents asking you a lot of questions that you will not know. You cannot know. There are too many things to know. Don't ever lie and say you know something that you don't know. Confidently tell the person, I don't know, but I will find the answer for you. I think that's great advice. I never carried it into the rooms when I first started.
We all followed that advice instead of being like, well, let's just.
Right.
Yeah, like sometimes you just don't know.
You just don't know. And it's okay. Your job is not to know everything. Your job is to know how to find the answer.
Absolutely.
And one of my dear friends, who is an Emmy Award-winning editor, one of the most talented filmmakers I know. I remember sitting down to work on a project with him, and I just assumed that he knew the software in and out because this is what he does professionally. And a lot of the things that we wanted to do, he didn't know how to do them. The software is too big. He doesn't use them on a day-to-day basis. He would stop and look it up, or he would call an assistant editor because they handle the more basic parts of the program, and they would talk them through that. And he was just, it was fine. It didn't bother him at all. And I was like, right. Confidence in knowing that you know how to find the answer. Your job is not to know everything.
Right.
It's to know eventually how to get to the answer.
I was at a talk once, and I can't remember exactly even what the talk was for, but I remember that the person who was speaking, she had this really great quote, and I'm going to kind of butcher it, but essentially she said that in some spaces, some people are given the permission to try and fail over and over again, and others are not even given the permission to try.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think, that also was coming down across like identity lines and things like that, where men are sort of given the benefit of the doubt, maybe over women, or like white men over people of color. That idea.
A lot of particular individuals who get to fail upward, right? We talk about this all the time.
Like you're allowed to go in not being 1,000% confident you can do the thing, but people trust that you're smart enough to figure it out.
That's right.
Whereas I have always felt that I have to look like I know what I'm doing, actually know what I'm doing, convince them that I know what I'm doing, and can't believe otherwise. Yeah. Even though I believe that I have the smarts to like eventually figure it out, I don't think I'm going to be given the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that a lot of us have to wrestle with.
Of course.
Is that you're not even given the permission always to even try to figure it out. And so my question, therefore, if you're talking to someone who's younger and maybe encountering some of these same feelings, is there anything that you would say or tell, say, the younger Adam, now that wiser Adam is sitting with us? What would you wiser
older
what advice could you share for someone going through this?
I wish I had a canned answer for that, and I wish I had a good answer for that, and I don't know that I do.
Look at you taking your own advice.
I'm taking my own advice in this instance, because I think anything. I think about this just raising a 4-year-old boy, where I'm like,
very relevant
for sure. I remember my father. We had a similar upbringing, and it was relatively rowdy. And I remember my father being like, "Don't do anything I've done," and I was like, "Sure," and then I did it all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say the same thing to my son, and he's going to do it all. And I think some of that just comes with just experience. I don't have a canned answer for it, but it lives somewhere in the realm of being kinder to yourself.
Amen. Please.
Allowing yourself to fail. Like you said, that is part of the experience. And being more open about our experiences so that we can, if not learn from them through other people, at least commiserate and understand that these feelings are very universal.
And valid.
Right? And valid.
I think about that a lot, particularly even in relation to this podcast, because a lot of the things that I'm bringing up and talking about are things that I would have never shared even 5 years ago.
Yeah, same.
And certainly not, in the confident 20s era. Like now I speak with so much more openness about, call them shortcomings, not necessarily failures, because I don't really love that term, but the things that I thought I knew that I really didn't know and the lessons that I learned from that. I think that's probably the greatest gift of getting older, is the ability to just be more empathetic with yourself about like the process you've gone through and the things that you've learned. Yeah. And I'm much more comfortable with saying like, okay, maybe I don't know that thing, but I'm certainly smart enough to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Whether you believe me or not is on you, and I can't always impact
we can't control that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I know that I can figure out things much more readily and thoroughly than people might want to give you credit for. But I think that's the confidence of age.
I think so too.
And the wisdom that comes with, getting older.
Yeah, that you might just not be able to maybe cling on to in the same way when you were younger.
Absolutely not.
You haven't had the experience. You're still in a different, again, like your ego formation is just operating a little bit differently. It's forcing you to think differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're getting ready to wrap it up here. Any last thoughts? I mean, I would say, and maybe this is the question, having imposter feelings is not something that ever truly goes away. And it certainly sounds like you're in a place where you know how to navigate it, how to sort of absorb it. But your relationship with it, does it feel like, okay, I can accept this about myself? Or is it something that you actively try to separate yourself from?
It's probably something that you just have to live with, because again, it's a circumstance, I think, of the way, to speak specifically about this profession, that it's structured, and the way that its successes and its value markers are structured and measured. I don't know. I would love to say at this moment that that's something that I can at least identify and hold in a comfortable space, that I can live with it. But that's also because I've had some relative recent success, and 6 months from now, who knows where I'll be at. And that's frightening. I don't know. It's funny. It's really funny. I mean, there has to be a healthy way to live with it, because there's no way to work in this industry where you are just going to have success after success and they're going to be strung closely together. Yeah. You're going to have to go through fallow periods, dry periods. You're going to have to submit projects. That's it. That just don't work. Sometimes things just don't work, no matter how hard you work on them.
Or sometimes you like do it and it never sees the light of day and you're like, where'd it go?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly, right?
It's true.
So there has to be a healthy way to live with that feeling, because that's just, you're going to have to. So I hope I have made that. I hope this conversation has made the shelf for me to put that thing on the shelf and say, look,
I can say with some level of guarantee that it's going to come out.
Oh, 100%.
People will see it. I love that you were here. Thank you so much for
thank you for having me.
Being so open, letting me sort of poke and prod through all the nuances of that's something that's really personal, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for doing so. Thank you for enlightening those ideas, right, that we brought here today, because I'm certainly going to think about some of that stuff in a very different way.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
and I hope everyone out there does too. So with that, I think we're just going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you on the next episode of Can I Have a Word? Bye, everybody.